If there's a house manager, can we get an extra chair, please? Actually, maybe, Alain, if you want to tell us who our guest is.
Yeah, as I told you before, this is T.S. Monk, drummer and composer and son of Thelonious Monk, so I'm very happy to have him tonight.
Wow, I heard about this at the last moment, and but I felt compelled to come out and see this extraordinary program that Alain has put together here this evening. I hope all of you enjoyed it. I certainly did. I haven't seen my dad playing that much since I was a little kid, to tell you the truth. But what it did was it reinforced for me the extraordinary privilege I had to have been born in a household with this particular guy who is clearly the quintessential prototype for what every jazz musician wants to become, and most people want to become. A great friend of mine, a gentleman by the name of Ron Carter, bass player extraordinaire and grandmaster, he once told me, he said, you know, Thelonious is the only triple threat in the history of jazz. And I said, what do you mean by a triple threat, Ron? And he said, well, every jazz musician wants to play in a fashion that is so unique that absolutely no one can copy it. And Thelonious Monk clearly accomplished that. And then he said, and every jazz musician wants to write songs that everyone wants to play. And given that he is now second only to Duke Ellington as the most recorded composer in the history of jazz, and his composition, Round Midnight, is not only the most recorded composition in the history of jazz, but it's also maybe the number 3 or 4 most recorded tunes in the history of Western music. And third, and this was the extraordinary thing that Ron said, he said, and every jazz musician wants to play in that unique fashion and write those songs that everyone wants to play and do it in a fashion that moves the genre itself forward. And clearly, Thelonious Monk is the father of modern jazz. And if you could ask Miles Davis or Bud Powell or John Coltrane, who were his 3 primary students, the guys that he spent hours and hours and hours with, they would all agree that Thelonious is the father of modern jazz. So I'll close by saying many of you know Thelonious Monk as the high priest of bebop. And that's a nice title. It has a nice ring to it. But Thelonious Monk was in fact the father and is to this day the father of modern jazz. And I once again have to tell you that I just feel privileged to have spent my youth with this man, because with all that stuff, he was a really, really good father. And my mother was a really, really good mother. And I'm even more grateful for that than I am the fact that I was with him all the time till I was 33 years old. God bless all of you, and God bless you, Ellen, for putting together such an extraordinary piece. I think that anyone who really loves jazz needs to see this here, because this is Monk, pure and simple. And by the way, it's remarkable that even though they wanted to erase that, they couldn't erase it because he was really pissed about not getting paid.
Okay. Thank you for being with us. Hard to top that, but we will try. Elisabeth, sorry, the microphone's there. I wanted to ask, I guess we figure it out in the credits, in the titles, but I was wondering if you could both talk a little bit about the provenance of the material that became the basis for your films, and also what led you, how did you find them through, I guess maybe Elisabeth first, through your interest in Maria Schneider?
Well, I think we went to the same archives. The National Moving Image Archives of France, that's at BNF. Well, I was just doing I went to Paris for a Fulbright in January 2020, and I was supposed to be there for much longer, but during that time we were doing like a increasingly rushed deep dive into Maria footage, which is not easy, partially because there aren't keyword searches in the French archives there. So I found the footage there, and I've done kind of reenactment works before, and it was the first time I saw a piece of material, again, where I was like, I know it seems really simple, but there's something there, and I just kept watching it, and that's how it started.
Alain, can you tell us about your interest in Thelonious Monk and how you came upon this archival footage?
I don't know when it started. I've started. I mean, as far as I remember, I've been always impressed by this musician first, and then he's a kind of artist that the more you're trying to know, the more you are interested. And so I had this project to make a fiction on Thelonious Monk, and so I have started to try to find different footage, because there is this fantastic biography written by Robin Kelly, and the testimony of people who knew him, and this is very different from what we can see through different documents that and there is like two Thelonious Monk. There's the guy that is supposed to be a little bit crazy, a little bit the genius, and the Thelonious Monk told by his family and people who knew him. And so I have started to search for different materials, and I've been to INA2, which is the National French Institute of Archives, and so they send me different TV shows made at the time, and this TV show, they send me also the rushes, the footage of it. So it was very surprising for me to see a kind of gift, because I was able also to see the Thelonious Monk people were talking about, and I was able to see him talk normally and I was, the footage where like I was also shocked by the way he was treated at the time. And I just wanted to make something with that. Waiting for the other film, I just wanted to show it, and because it says a lot about him, about, I think he's so beautiful into this. I mean, it's painful to watch sometimes. But yes, when I've seen it, I said to myself that I wanted to make a film about it.
Yeah. How much footage was there, and I mean, how long was the segment that aired, and how much footage did you?
It was about 2 hours, and so my work was essentially try to put a chronology together. And you know, at the time, it was the first time for me working with archives, and I had you know, before I thought that like archives are like testimony and something like, you know, I've learned to see archives like differently. Like, yeah, for sure, the image shown at the time, it's also a kind of point of view, subjective, absolutely subjective. So my work was trying to work with the archives to make, to see it on the other side, and to be on the side of Thelonious Monk. I mean, as much I could do that. And so that's it. It was 2 hours, and I just want to not talk too much and show it, you know, as almost in a rough way.
And Elisabeth, like the interview that you found, it was like it was a 7-8 minute segment.
7 minutes, yeah.
And it aired, or in some context or other?
It was there was a very legendary and well-regarded TV series called Cinema, which was a cineast French television show where they would interview actors and directors and also show clips of things. It was kind of like the Cahiers du Cinéma of French film fan TV, and so she was in it, and she was there to promote a much less memorable film that she was in, but for some reason well, for obvious reasons, they wanted to ask her about tango. But I would also say, like, everything you just said about archives and wanting to kind of reshape point of view was the same motivation for me.
So when they aired it, did they use material from tango or no?
They actually didn't. And we didn't see that at first. It was through another way that we found, like the clip that I found, the 7 minutes, didn't have that last little clip. I'm blocking on the name of the film, but she plays a terrorist in it. And then we found we finally found the DVD of that episode, and we saw that they did put a teeny bit of the film she was supposedly promoting at the time.
I think it's kind of interesting the way you both respond to the material. I mean, in some ways it seems like there's, you know, minimal intervention, but there are also very powerful commentaries. And I'm just wondering if you can talk about the formal strategies. I mean, Alain, you decided to edit the footage and shape it, and Elisabeth, you decided to reenact it. You know, and I was wondering, maybe you can say a little bit. It's a strategy you've used in other works. You mentioned being in the festival before. Shuli, which premiered here, of course, is a work that does that. I was wondering if you can say a bit about why you thought reenactment was a useful tool for this material, and also doing it the way you did it, you know, and sort of like in triplicate with three different actresses.
Yeah, I mean, so many reasons, but I guess for me, unlike, I mean, it's hard. I'm thinking so much about your piece because I just saw it for the first time. But for me, I wasn't thinking. Maria Schneider, I don't think as an actor was a genius. But I do think that the choices she made in her life after tango, where she was exploited and then went down a really painful rabbit hole for 8 years in terms of kind of the traumatic impact of the experience on the set, drugs, alcohol, suicide attempts, etc. She got herself out of that. And once she became sober, she really only participated in the industry on her own terms, meaning that she did not take her off her clothes, she would not let herself be objectified, and that is radical, especially at the period that she made it. And she was also the first out bisexual in Hollywood and lived the rest of her life with one woman who is still alive. So I guess for me, I was thinking about kind of the legacy of her experience and the kind of inheritance of the type of trauma that she went through in the set that I feel like it's played out in a very subtly sadistic way in this interview too. So the interview kind of becomes a microcosm of what she already went through. And so as somebody who almost everything I've done has been invested in biography or problematizing portraiture in a way, I felt like the best way to do that and kind of talk about the complexity of biography and the legacy of women's exploitation was to have her words play out through other bodies in which they were invited to navigate a reenactment of her within their own experience as actors and also their own experience of what they felt about her experience. Voila.
I'll ask Alain one more, and then we'll open it up to the audience. If maybe you could say a little bit more about just working with not a whole lot of material, 2 hours of material, but still finding a shape for the film, because a lot of this interview material, this in-between interviews like material, which is so powerful, but it's also, as you can, I mean, the way the audience has responded to it, it's also a performance film. I mean, and you give a lot of space to the music and to the performance. So if you can talk a bit about shaping the film from what you had.
The first thing was, I think I've watched it about 100 times, 1,000 times, and just try to hear what's happening at the moment. And you're always subjective doing an editing, but I just wanted to try to give a sensation of what could have been this moment for him, arriving in a city after 1 month of touring in Europe, and you have this weird people who want to promote you, and in the same ways that they don't even, I think the thing is this guy, Henri Renaud, the interviewer, is also a piano player, and he came to see Thelonious Monk in '54 at the time when he lost his cabaret card, so he wasn't able to play in New York. It was a difficult time for him, and so he went to him at a moment when he wasn't on top, and so he really respects him a lot, and he respects his work. And what was really weird for me is to see that even when sometimes you can have admiration, you can have a lot of respect for somebody, you can also carry some stereotypes, incredible stereotypes. And it was really, okay, so Thelonious Monk had to go through all this like almost every day of his life during like 30 years. And it's like you're landing on Mars or whatever, and Jupiter, or I don't know where, or people are trying to, even if they like you, they live in so in words that are so different. His way of thinking about art and artist, Henri Renaud, is so far away from the day-by-day experience of Thelonious Monk that sometimes it's a little bit weird. And that's it. I mean, so I've just tried to give a little glimpse of what maybe it could have been at this moment. So trying to, and he got this, you know, the power of silence also, because he's really courageous not to answer to this guy and to let the silence like a mirror, you know, to let the things be, to let the truth appears with only using silence in some time. And so I was really impressed, and I just wanted to be a little bit inspired by the way he played, to let things happen. And for sure, I just wanted to have a big moment of music, because I've seen a lot of documentaries about musicians, and most of the time we can't hear them play. And I really wanted to have this moment, because he's not able to talk, because, you know, the questions are just so stupid. And at a moment he play, and it's like you understand everything. Everything is there, and I just wanted to have this moment with him. And the film really, my focus was on that, and I thought that the film will be finished at the moment where the maximum of attention will be at the moment he played. And so that's what I was trying to do in using rhythm, using different things, but I wanted people to be focused really at the moment he played.
All right, we can open it up.
Personally, I think that this footage show that, in fact, he is really, that the world around him that is crazy. He is perfectly normal. I think I never met another example of such an authenticity of somebody who will never play the game, who will also be direct and honest in every forms. So in the world that we're living in, even today, those people who never play, who will not have to, you know, he will never make the thing easy if he doesn't feel like it. So he will never say, you know, all the things that are expected in this kind of situation. If the question is stupid, he will not answer. So it is rare and absolutely necessary to have this kind of people who just interact with other people with this kind of honesty. And sometimes that makes them looks like they are eccentric or whatever, but that's our word that it's eccentric. So I think that's the proof that he's somebody really centered. And you see it at the beginning with this beautiful shot, you know, the circle, the shot made in circle. I mean, they're all like flies, and he's just like here in the center and connected with the present. He's the only one. All the other ones are like, you know, disconnected. And
so you feel that he had agency in this in '69. He had agency. He was in control of the situation always. You felt that he was in control in this interview.
I don't know about in control or not. I'm not Thelonious Monk, but I think that one of his legacy, even in his music, is trying to be the most direct and possible. And for me, as a filmmaker, I mean, he's inspiring me because he's also kind of you know, he let some.
I'm sorry, but I have to deal with this. My father never suffered from any form of dementia, ever. What my father did suffer from was being a black man in America. He was fucked over so many different ways. For instance, Round Midnight, right? He wrote that in the early 40s. My mother told me he got his first check from Round Midnight in the early 50s. That will fuck you up. That will make you so you don't feel like talking to anybody. You don't feel like doing interviews. When he was brought to Europe, as he said in the film, had no van for him, had no money for him. He didn't know what he was doing, you know, and what he was doing there. Yet and still, he was the featured artist on the program for the concert series. All of that kind of stuff, and I have to say, whether you're talking about Thelonious Monk, or you're talking about Miles Davis, or you're talking about Charlie Parker, or Billie Holiday, these people were abused. They were abused incredibly. And my father, as Alan said, you ask him a stupid question, he chose not to answer. But it wasn't because he wasn't aware of what was going on around him. It was because he was, I know for a fact that he was disgusted. You know, imagine you're in a situation where the world tells you, you are a genius. And every white genius that you see has a house, they got a car, they got a bank account. You know, this stupid motherfucker that was talking to him, right? He keeps asking him, why was your piano in the kitchen? And Thelonious is trying to explain to him that there was nowhere else to put the piano. I was in that apartment. It was a tiny 2-bedroom apartment, right? Piano was in the kitchen, so was the stove, so was the sink. There was a tiny bathroom behind the piano, you know? So all of that shit, right? All that kind of stuff will make you not want to deal, you know? He was trying to take care of me, my sister, and my mother, take care of his family, feed his family. And he had to deal with the bullshit of the entertainment world, which was abusing him. So don't get it twisted. He didn't suffer from any dementia. He suffered from disgust. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I think we can take one final question. Thanks.
Yeah, my English is not that good, but I mean, I think I understand most of it. First of all, the thing was, you know, when you see footage like this, for example, the moment when he's into this bar or when he walk into the street, I've tried to make like some, how you say that, follies, just to make people get the sensation of there is a camera in front of him. And you know how the situation becomes different when the camera is here. And if you have tried sometime to walk with the camera just in front of you into the street, you know how it's just like not natural, you know. So it's easy, you know, to say that he seems a little bit clumsy or whatever. I mean, he just got a full crew in front of him, and they don't seem that too professional, you know. So and I've tried to hear their voice. I mean, the sound of their voice is, make it upper. Just to people realize that, the situation is not that natural, and he's trying to do his best. He's really collaborative in a way. I mean, he's trying to talk with his manager. He's doing the job. I think seeing this image, he's doing the job, because that's a way for him to be able to care for his family. So he have to do it. But I also think that at this moment he's a little bit tired of it. It's just the period before he will start to slowly getting out of it. Play less and less, and so I've just tried to show a little bit about this, but I didn't have the other side of the camera. There is this incredible shot of him, really a close-up, very close to him, and you can even see his breath on the lens of the camera, which means that the camera was very there, and it's very weird in a sense. It's like, how much do you feel comfortable to come to at this and it's really special. I mean, I've just tried to you have to imagine you in this situation, all these people acting like this and trying to be kind, but also, I mean, it's violent. Yeah, really. I mean, yeah, the cameraman thinks he can go, like this to you, and so it's really weird, and from people that are supposed to love you. That's what is terrible for me into this film. It's how come these people who are supposed to be here and love him and try to promote him can be so violent. And that's a problem, because all this kind of stuff, racism. When somebody is obviously racist, it's cool in a way, because But when he is supposed to be sympathetic, and so it's like, but that's the problem. In fact, that's the real problem. They don't even know. They live in a world like they don't even know, and he got a really a kind of romantic idea of artist, black artist, and he's really romantic, and the story about the piano is really about that, so it's this kind of violence of people, you're dealing with people who have no idea about what is your daily life, in fact. And I think this is not that different today. So it's really about, and what is great with great artists like Thelonious Monk, they put you in a kind of intimacy. A great painter, a great musician, it's like you have a common intimacy. But when you start to talk about it, then you go back into your own word, into your own interpretation, and then the words are, So I was really curious about this, and I think it's continuing today. It's the same thing. I have all these people who want to talk about all this subject about, I don't know, women's, black people, whatever. And each time it's clumsy. Each time there are, it's becoming stupid, because they're trying to promote something, and we're still dealing with that, I think. So I just wanted to, I was a little bit shocked and also very impressed about the fact that even into that, he could take the piano at some point and bring you to his world, which is our world. Because at the moment he played, there's no question about that. It's a question about being human beings and, to have this incredible relationship with also what we can't say. he's dealing with what we can't say, but he says with music, and it's just beautiful. And that's it. We just have to hear him, to listen to him.
Maybe just to wrap up, I think, Elisabeth, some of that question does apply to your project, the idea of the violence of the original material and your intent to, I don't know, I guess subversion was the word that was used. I don't know if you thought about it in those terms.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can relate to so much that you're talking about, just in terms of trying to revisit material and present material to redirect the camera, redirect the frame to help point to the kind of violence of the material. I mean, Maria Schneider was someone where people literally would say to her face, so this film that she made at 19 had ruined her life. Like, the ability to say to someone, like a journalist to say that to her when she was then like 30, 40 years older is just astonishing. And, you know, seeing the way that Monk was treated in that interview, I mean, it's you know, when the journalist and Maria Schneider says, you're not able to separate the fact that you were abused on set from the brilliance of the film, it's just kind of like jaw-dropping.
Thank you both for your films. I want to thank Alain and Elisabeth, and T.S. Monk, thank you for being here with us as well.